And we are live. Thank you so much for joining us on a very special Tarrin It Up Tuesday. You're at the hippest trip on YouTube. That's right, baby. We're going to deal out some good feeling. We are going to be talking about peaceful parenting and unschooling and wherever else this conversation goes. I'm very, very lucky and fortunate to hook up with some old friends, and I haven't seen them forever, so it's going to be like a reunion show. But my buddies, the Blushes, they collectively put their names together, Catherine Bleish and Jon Bush. You probably maybe have seen them. Gosh, if you've been in the activism world, you definitely know who they are. And but you might have picked them up when they were doing their Sovereign Living TV show, or maybe you know the Bitcoin the Bitcoin Bus or the Bitcoin Mom. I'm gonna let Kat talk about all of our other projects. Geez, you guys have done, we've known each other almost 10 years. We were just talking and I was like, man, we've been through a lot of projects, Operation Defuse together, lots of stuff. So I'm gonna give you guys a minute or two to introduce yourselves, talk a little bit about your background, and then we'll get into some peaceful parenting.
Okay. Excellent. My name's John. I'm from Austin, Texas.
I'm Catherine. I'm from Kansas City, but I currently reside in Austin, Texas.
She got here as soon as she could to be with me.
To be with John.
We met each other in 2009 at the Continental Congress 2009 in St. Charles, Illinois, and it was love at first sight. And we both were activists for liberty, Kat in Kansas City, Missouri, and me in Austin, Texas, and we had a whole lot in common. And we were really devoted to the cause of freedom, primarily through political means. And we both really vibed on each other and pushed each other to live a more free life, not relying on politicians or politics. And since then, we've really just dove into how we can have the absolute most free life possible and be consistent with that in every aspect of life. So we started having children 5 years ago. We have 2 kiddos, one's 4 and one's 5. And we practice peaceful parenting, which is basically parenting based on love and respect. We're not always as consistent as we can, but we try, and it's an effort. And we also unschool our children, which is life-led learning, basically. We don't have a set curriculum. We just gauge what their interests are and try to provide them tools and resources so they can maximize their interests, and education just kind of comes naturally. And yeah, we're rabble-rousers, causing trouble, but as of late, we've really been, and we're really into entrepreneurship too, which we can talk about, but as of late, we've really been focusing on living the free life and conscious living and mindfulness and just leading a good, happy, healthy life.
And by the free life, that includes like emotional sovereignty and financial sovereignty, and it's more than politics. And while I think both of us probably became activists for political reasons, it's evolved, changed.
And so have we.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because, we all started together in the trenches, and there were some pretty hardcore activists, and we ran in the same circles. And then as we aged, we mellowed out. Like all of a sudden we realized maybe the best way to do this is not standing on a corner with a bullhorn and a sign and protesting. Maybe the best way to do this is just living a free life, learning how to grow our own food, how to take care of our families, how to create cool kids. Our activism has matured over the years, I would like to say.
It's refined.
Have you noticed that? Have you, when you run into the old school guys, that we've all kind of like mellowed out?
It's hard not to. I don't think anybody can sustain that level of just like hardcore, energetic exertion and anger. It's wow, it drains you. I know I was pretty wiped out by 2010. I was a wreck. My health was in shambles. I'd been arrested twice. I was an emotional wreck, just total train wreck. My relationship with my family had fallen apart. My relationship with all my friends. I didn't know who I was anymore because I was like fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting, and you lose yourself.
You get stuck in a negative vibe when it's you against them, and it just pulls you more negative and more negative, and before you know it, everything's destroyed around you.
That's
it's
right.
Like, I get it, and I know that in my my life the last couple of years, I'm a Pollyanna. I'm Mr. Positive, because I don't want to live in that place anymore. But I still believe in living free and living as free as I can and trying to spread some love around. And I think you guys have kind of got there too, on a little different path, but I think we're at the same place.
I think
Peace
so.
and love.
Yeah, I think freedom. You're not free when you're slave to a movement, right? And I found a bunch of my old journals from 2009, and I'm like, taking a vow of poverty, and I want to live a life of service. I want to save the world. I want to give everything to everyone. And then at some point, I'm like, oh, I cashed out my 401k for Ron Paul. What I get back from him, where did that money go? What am I going to do now? You kind of got to recreate everything.
Oh yeah, that's pretty funny. So you guys, since you start to live by the non-aggression principle, like a couple of us have tried to, it's harder than it sounds, but we started to go down that road, and then you started having kids, and you had a choice. Do you raise the kids the same way you were raised, or do you try to raise them in a peaceful manner? So why don't we talk about what peaceful parenting is, because I don't think people really get what it is.
You want to take that? Okay.
Yeah, well, there's one style of parenting where the parent essentially dominates the child and is a holier than thou authority. Whatever the parent says goes. And this really kind of takes away a child's sense of self and sovereignty. And at the end of the day, the child ends up developing into an adult based on the programming and the story that the parents impart upon them, rather than being their own true self.
My children are calling for me. I'll be right back.
I understand. I mean, we are doing a show on parenting, so if you got to go and take care of them, I get it.
Yeah, that's true. That's the word.
John,
so it basically enables the child to develop of their own accord and be their own unique person. Far too often when parents use a more traditional style of parenting, the child ends up being a product of the parents' parenting and the parents' parenting and so on and so forth. And unfortunately, there's a lot of scary and hurtful things that are just so predominant. We live in a trauma-based society, so we're trying to do things based on peace, love, and understanding and respect for our child's autonomy. We don't think that we own our children, rather we act as a protectorate, where we keep them safe, we give them wisdom, because obviously we're older, we have more wisdom. We just try to let them be as free as humanly possible and intervene as little as possible. And the peaceful aspect, we avoid physical violence altogether, no spanking. We don't manipulate the children with rewards and punishments or timeouts or countdowns, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we try our best to be as emotionally peaceful as possible. Now, there have been times when things are difficult, and myself personally and my wife, but maybe me more so, I've struggled with the emotional side, and voices have been raised. But we always try to be as authentic as possible. It's okay to be emotional, and we sit down and talk about it with our children whenever somebody slips up. So I don't think there's going to be anybody out there that's a pure 110% peaceful parent, but the idea is that we try to be the best parents that we can be and respect our child's sovereignty and autonomy and let them grow into something that amazes us.
Yeah, it amazes me that this is like one aspect that your children don't get to choose you. You're stuck in a relationship as a child that that people really don't understand, and imagine if we were adults and all of a sudden we had the same relationship that like I pretty much control your comings and goings. I control what you eat. I control everything you do, and it is you do it because I said you do it, because I'm bigger than you. I'm the adult. And those are your entire explanations. And I think we got to get past that as a society, that you're raising kids with that kind of mentality right out the bat, that I'm bigger, so you do what I say. And
that's why many children grow up into adults that don't question the police, or don't question their city council members, or don't question any sort of authority figure in their life, because they were raised to think that they would be punished if they did that. And it doesn't even cross their mind that that's an option, to think, wow, I could question someone who's telling me what to do. You know, if you've been hit or put in a corner or told, shut up, don't talk, be quiet, like that affects you forever, the rest of your life.
Yeah, I mean, you'll always hear the criticism.
Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, no, sorry, Kat, I thought you were finished. Go ahead, keep going.
Well, I was just gonna say, many people spend, you know, decades in therapy trying to undo all of that. And so I think for John and I, our biggest, well, not our biggest goal, but one of our greatest goals is to raise children that don't need a bunch of therapy to undo what we did to them. You know, we want them to walk into adulthood. There's my dog whining, sorry.
That's
We
okay.
want them to enter adulthood as sovereigns and to not have that robbed from them. And so that they don't have to do this whole like college-aged angst where they're drinking and sleeping around and acting out in rebellion when there's nothing to rebel against and they know who they are from the beginning. Imagine what they're going to be able to create. I mean, just the potential for creative thought and, you know, the ability to take massive action when no one has ever told you that you can't do something, no one's ever stood in your way and prevented you from doing things, whether it's physical or psychological. I mean, just, I think with peaceful parenting, one of the things that's sort of overlooked is there's a whole psychological aspect to it. I mean, we can literally rewire the brains of other people with the words we use when we speak to them. And so, you know, peaceful parenting is really important, but I think it's more of a partnership parenting and a you know, just honoring sovereignty and allowing for total freedom.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing because most parents would agree, you know, like I want to raise my kid without violence. I don't want to spank my kids. I don't want to pick my kid up when they're spazzing out and stick them in a corner and then keep sticking them on the naughty chair. Or I don't want to, you do what I say because I'm bigger. But what happens in real life is they wear out of patience and they're tired and they don't know how else to do it. And it's like, yeah, that might work for other kids, but that doesn't work for my kid. You don't live with my kid. I have to stuff them in a corner 20 times a day. You know, so I'm sure you guys hear that. How do you handle that when, like when people are interested and they say, you know, my kid's completely out of control. I can't imagine letting them just do whatever they want. So give me an idea.
Our kids are out of control too.
Sometimes.
It's definitely a struggle. And one of the insights that I had early on in parenting before we had our second child was that our children are a reflection of their environment and of their parents. And so whenever there's stress or anger or whenever someone's working too much or sad even, the child's going to respond accordingly. And if the child's in a scary environment, like there's a war going on, for example, that's going to have an effect on their upbringing and the adult that they become. Or if the parents are always fighting, that's going to have an effect. Or if they're living in poverty or unsafe, or if they're living in a beautiful mansion with a pool and everything they ever wanted, the environment affects someone. So if your children are in a safe, healthy environment, roof over their head, food, oftentimes, actually every single time, for the most part, their behavior is indicative of their parents, especially, and their peers and the other children and families around them. So before we condemn our children, the most important thing to do is take a deep, hard look in the mirror and question our own behavior and how that is affecting our children. So more often than not, when a child is throwing a fit, quote unquote, or just having a hard time or quote unquote misbehaving, we don't even like to place labels of good and bad on a child's behavior or what they do. They just are living. If they're having a really hard time, chances are there's something wrong and something trouble happening within their family life.
Or something out of balance. It doesn't have to be awful doom and gloom stuff. But I mean, if things are just out of balance, you know, even if it's dietary, like these things
jacked up on sugar and food coloring. Our son gets really aggressive with food coloring, and it's hard to deal with, you know, and I think a lot of parents avoid peaceful parenting because they're worried about being judged by other parents, and they don't want to seem like their children are in control and they're weak. They don't want to be embarrassed by their family or by their peer group. And I think you really just have to let go of that and understand that it's not about what other people think about you. It's about giving your child the opportunity to be free.
And
and
oh, I'm sorry,
that, if you are aggressing upon your children, that's a reflection of you. It doesn't matter what your kids are doing. Their behavior is a reflection of them, right? And so if you instead of saying, well, I want you to do this, so I'm going to make you, I'm going to force you because that's what society expects of me. If instead you start asking questions, John likes to say curiosity instead of condemnation, right? So if you start asking questions, often you can get to the bottom of things, and the reason a child is behaving a certain way during a certain time period may not be what you expect. We had some really, really hard issues with our daughter when we moved off of our farm and everything changed, and she started drinking bottles again and was yelling and crying and up till 4 a.m. every night, and things were just crazy. And we couldn't figure out what to do. It went on for like 8 months. We weren't getting any sleep. We were all exhausted. And some of our old friends who are in the liberty movement were like, hit that kid, spank that kid, make her stop, but it's like, hold on, something's wrong. And when we were able to finally figure out that she felt completely out of control because she lost the property she lived on, that she was born on, that where she had raised all these chickens on, and there was just stress and turmoil in our lives, and I was really sad about it, and I was grieving it, and John was really stressed about it, and he was really angry. And I finally talked to one of my friends who has 9 kids, and I'm like, what do I do with this, with this poor girl? And this is a family that is not a peaceful family. They kind of raise children with the Christian kind of, corporal punishment style. And she was like, hey, your daughter feels out of control. Tell her you're in control. And so when I told her, because she was like chugging these bottles of water, like 8 or 12 bottles a day, she was already way past breastfeeding, and it was just, I was trying to, meet her need. I thought, oh, I'll just give her, if she wants a bottle, I'll give her a bottle. Well, when I just said, no, you don't need that. She never fought back. She never asked for another one. She quit peeing her pants, and it was like the end. It was like as soon as I quit just saying, oh, I don't know how to help you, here's all this stuff, I just calmly said, no more bottles. You don't need these. You never had a bottle. You're chugging them. You're peeing everywhere. You're crying everywhere. And as soon as I started acting in control of our life and just making quick decisions and not, what do I do? My daughter's freaking out. I don't know how to deal with it. Because that's what
she sounded like.
That's what, that was it. We were like, this is so stressful. And we were kind of afraid, I guess, because I think like with peaceful parenting, some people think of like permissive parenting, where it's just like, let the kids do everything. But you can set boundaries and not be mean, and you can set boundaries and not hurt people. And that was the lesson that we learned, start asking questions, start figuring stuff out. And by the time we figured out that she felt out of control, we were able to step into an energy of, we're in control now. We got this. And all of a sudden she calmed down. Well, what if we had hit her for that, right? She felt out of control. Her life was in chaos, and we're hitting her. How is that going to help her? What is that going to turn her into in the future? What will she do as an adult when she feels out of control? Is she going to feel safe going to an authority figure saying, I need help? Because there were times in my adult life where I didn't feel safe going to an authority figure, my young adult life, saying, I need help. I can do that now. But when our children are hurt for needing help, and instead of trying to figure out what it is that is the root cause of the problem, because the behavior isn't the problem. There's something going on underneath the surface that's causing the problem. And so, man, we've had a lot of pressure to be aggressive with our children and to hurt our children. And I'm really glad that we haven't done that. And of course, we've been stressed out and we've been short, and we're human beings.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you.
Or anything.
Yeah, Kat, I was going to say, a lot of times people feel like if they do this, that they're so on the social outcast, like they're so from the social norm, and that you hear this from, well, I got hit when I was a kid, and I turned out okay. Everybody always turned out okay, right? Like I always turned out. Yeah, my parents were a freaking mess, but I turned out okay. Like instead of just saying maybe I should break the cycle and try something different. It's like a hard thing to look at your own childhood, because then you have to say, well, yeah, maybe my parents weren't perfect.
To look at your current adult life and acknowledge, like, maybe I'm not happy. Maybe I got put into a system and churned out like everybody else. Maybe I'm working a 9 to 5. Maybe I'm miserable. Maybe I'm exhausted. Maybe my marriage sucks. Maybe all these things that society was pushing me into actually kind of suck. You know, like that's really hard to acknowledge. I mean, at least for us it was, you know, but that sucks.
I think that's really hard, that people have the mirror and say, okay, you know, my life was pretty screwed up, but I got to do something better. I got to break this cycle.
Yeah.
And I think when you come to that more mature position, that you can try something. And then it's just a matter of, like, I appreciate what you said, that you try to live peaceful parenting. It's hard, like no one can really do it 100%, but at least you're going the right direction. You're making conscious decisions, because I'm sure there's days where you just want to lose your mind and you do this. But my understanding of peaceful parenting is your job is to convince your child, not tell your child. You need to, even though that takes a lot longer and it takes a lot more energy, to make the child want to make the right decision. Like, you know, hey, I know you want to eat lollipops all day long, but if you do that, you know how your stomach hurts and it gets all hurty, and, you know, maybe that's not the best thing to do. And we talk about it until the child decides, okay, maybe just a few popsicles or whatever.
Well, you let them binge and you let them get a stomach ache and they figure it out, because we all did that when we were like 23, right?
That's true. Oh, so you do it early.
I think the cool thing about peaceful parenting and the thing that's an issue with non-peaceful parenting is whenever you try to encourage a child to change their behavior, because as adults we have more wisdom and we know, you know, we have a better idea of how to lead a more fulfilling life than the child, although actually maybe that's not true. We're probably closer to source than we are.
For sure.
Whenever you use rewards and punishments or manipulation or spanking, which is the worst of all,
there's worse than spanking.
That fails. Sure, physical violence. Yeah. That fails. Actually, maybe some emotional trauma could be worse than being hit. Whenever you use those types of tools, it fails to strike the root of the matter. It fails to explore the intrinsic reason why a child is acting a certain way. Or whenever you, instead of just explaining to them the consequences of their actions, should they take a given action that isn't potentially in their best interest, you can explore why you really shouldn't be doing something. So, for example, some parents, when the child goes to touch a hot burning stove or something, that ends up with them getting hurt or hit or spanked. When the proper thing to do would be to get down on first stop them from reaching out by intervening physically, but then you don't punish them after that. You get down on their level and share with them why it's not a good idea to touch a stove, or why it's not a good idea to run out into the street. But if you simply spank them, who's to say if you're not around and they're hanging out with their friends, they're going to run out on the street, because they never learned the true consequences of such an action. So we try to explore the intrinsic reasons why you should or should not do anything. And then when it's safe, unlike running in the street or touching a hot burning stove, sometimes we let the child experience the consequences of their actions, because experience is the greatest teacher. So
well, and also don't let children who are too young to understand the consequences of burning their hands near a stove, and don't let children who are too young to understand the consequences of running in the street walk into the street. Hold their hand. Someone, I don't remember who it was, but someone said if your child is not aware enough to stop from running across the street, build a fence. You know, like, you don't hit them. Stefan Molyneux.
Oh, yeah.
So don't hit them.
They're tall enough to touch the stove. What if they reach up and try to do that, or they start doing that regularly? Then don't let them in the kitchen while you're cooking. Or we actually had this issue with Bill.
Or cook with them. Cook with them. Teach them. Yeah. Pull up a chair. Have them cook with you. Teach them.
There was a period where Bill's still very unruly, which is only natural.
John's son. Imagine that. An unruly son of John.
No. It's so funny to me that you guys were pretty much the two most kick-ass activists I know, and now you've created other activists. You're like 10 times multiply. I don't even know. Yeah, how could you do anything but peaceful parenting? These kids would be hell if you tried to control them.
Yeah, we feel like total hypocrites. There was a period when Bill was actually bolting, and he would just bolt out into parking lots and stuff. So we just were like, all right, let's take a mental note. Next time we pull him out, we're going to hold him until we get into the freaking store. That's much more preferable to hitting them. He
didn't want to be held, and he didn't want to wait in the car with Dad. He wanted to go with me, and I'm like, well, son, I'm sorry, but your behavior is showing me that you don't understand the danger. So I don't feel safe walking across the parking lot with arms full of groceries with you walking by my side. So he had to sit with John a couple times. And after that, he's like, Mom, I'm going to walk with you. And I said, well, I don't know that you are. I don't feel safe because your most recent behavior was the exact opposite. Well, Mom, I'm going to walk with my hand on your belt loop. Okay, well, I feel good with that. And so you know, when he wanted bad enough to be able to walk through the parking lot, he made the choice to not run away, and we didn't have to hit him.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point that you go through this phase where your kid's really just not cognitive at, you know, 1 or 2 you're going to have to intervene, but not violently, you know, just, hey, don't do it. And then I imagine you just start reasoning with them very young until they understand, you know, you build their ration, right? Don't you talk to them and try to explain to them so it's their decision?
Well, yeah, and one of the things we did, particularly with our youngest daughter, we weren't as thorough with our son, but we taught my daughter baby signs, and she could do 32 sign language signs before she was verbal. So she knew hot, and she knew these signs, and so she was able to communicate with me, and I could really tell her, like, this is hot. Don't touch, you know, and are you hungry? Are you thirsty? And we could talk from across the room in a crowd of people, and she could ask for help. And so I think teaching intentional communication skills at a very young age, and another thing is modeling and working with them. Like the Waldorf school of thought is that from age, you know, especially 3 to age 7, that they should be learning with you and mirroring what you're doing. So if you're cooking, pull up a chair, have them help you. And they're going to be able to feel the heat, you know, without touching it. And you can say, ooh, feel that. Whoa, let's not touch it all the way. And, you know, hey, come help me in the garden. Look at this sharp tool. Here's how we hold it safely. Let's do it together. You know, you don't just leave that stuff laying around for them to grab and then yell at them or hit them for touching it. And what we have found is that if you just sort of integrate your children into your day-to-day life, which is one of the beautiful parts about unschooling, is that we're able to do that, whether we're traveling or at home, they're integrated into our life, and we can teach those safety things basically from birth, especially if you're baby wearing. A lot of peaceful parents are really into attachment parenting, which, you know, breastfeeding, skin-to-skin contact, wearing the baby in a baby wrap. And so one of the things that I did with both kids is I just spoke about what I was doing, even when they were wrapped up, unable to speak, you know, breastfeeding infant children. If I'm working at the stove or washing with hot water or using soap, I'm talking about it. Oh, I'm turning on the hot water. And, ooh, that's too hot. Let's turn on some cold. And, oh, I'm making bubbles. Look at this soap. It doesn't taste good. Let's keep it out of our mouth. And just talking through every step of the way. They start to learn that stuff even before they're able to, you know, physically, and before they have the motor skills to do it.
Got it. Let me introduce our other guest who's been waiting patiently. Ernest Hancock wanted to come say hi, and he has to unmute himself in Google here. You're muted on the Hangouts. But once he figures out the microphone here, he's like,
Ernest Hancock on Declare Your Independence.
See, you guys know how to do it. That's good. That's good. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
I was enjoying it. I'm just sitting here working and listening to Kat and John, and I'm going.
It's funny, if you're watching the chat room, everybody's laughing, going, "Oh, I love it when Kat gets all fired up."
You know, I tell you, we were. I remember years ago at Pork Fest, we were interviewing John and Kat, and I just emotional because I just remember Donna and I raising our 4 children. You know, young activists, and like you're raising activists kind of thing. And now I have 10 grandchildren. I don't know if you guys knew that. I got 10 grandkids now. Double digits, man. I win. You know, and I tell you, to me, peaceful parenting has been like it's being a grandparent when you're a parent. Grandparents. Yeah, you know, grandparents don't get mad. Grandparents don't get all out of bent at you, whatever, you know, and you just think more long term, and you're trying to, you know, build their self-esteem. You treat them like adults is what grandparents get to do. And then there's negotiation. All right, now we know what's coming. You know, this is going to happen. And you just keep them more informed. And my parents weren't around. They were in another state, and they weren't around to help us. So we're around with all our grandkids, and every chance we get, you know, bring them on. Well, my kids are like, I stop asking me questions to the kids. If you got a question, ask Papa. He'll answer anything, you know. Yes, I will. It's called, you know, the internet, man. We're all going to learn how glass is made, you know, that kind of thing. So it's explaining it to them and just realizing they're adults. They're just little and they're not able to communicate as well. If you disrespect them, all of a sudden, boom, they're 17, a butthead and kick your ass. So, I mean, you know, it's kind of, you want to be nice now, get on their good side, because all of a sudden 10, 15, 20 years later, boom, that's in front of you with testosterone and estrogen flowing off the wall. So I've learned to be more, we did spank when we were little. I mean, when our children were little, but not that much, and not after about 5 years old. I mean, if they're still getting spanked at 4 or 5, I mean, you know, you weren't doing it right or something. So but there was this authoritarian thing. That's how I grew up. I said, oh no, it's going to be, no, in the end, I rule, you know, that kind of thing. As opposed to now, as a grandparent, you negotiate. You put them on equal with you, and you go, yeah, I know that, you know, but this is what's going to happen, and these are the options, and this. If you treat them like adults, you raise adults. So now our grandkids are so mature, and they're so nice. You know, they're polite, but you got to engage. You got to put down the tablet. You got to turn off the television. Yeah, but fortunately, now everything is on pause. So that's good. Probably makes it easier now than it would parenting 20 years ago. Hey, man, Star Trek's on, and that's just the way it is, you know, so shut up. But so this is it. The technology allows for a lot more stuff. I get to learn stuff all over again. And I found that if you just treat them like adults, you know, they turn into one.
Yeah, for sure. Just respect their intelligence. A lot of people think that the kids are like dense and dumb, but in reality, they have so much intelligence, and they're like they haven't been programmed yet. So a lot of our behavior and actions as adults is based on programming from public school or just culture, our parents, which is based on their parents, which is based on their parents. But the children are like a blank slate. So it's really a beautiful thing to allow them that free expression. And then if you assume positive intent, at the end of the day, you know, they're great people. Their kids are chill, and they're so loving and happy, and a big ball of light and joy. Just got to take a deep breath sometimes if you're feeling stressed.
How old are your oldest now?
5 and 4.
Oh, you know, that 5 and 4 round, you know, from like, probably 3, 4 to, you know, 8, 9 is that, you know, you're the top, you know, until this is what really got me. My oldest granddaughter, she's now 8 or something. I remember her first week or 2 or month in first grade and or kindergarten is when she first started going to school. And she came up to me one time and she goes, well, my teacher said whatever, so you're just wrong.
Oh.
And I'm like, you know what? This is, instead of getting all mad or getting all activist or go, really, you know, I'm like,
let me talk to your teacher.
I just logged that one over here and we'll just see. Okay. So then it became, you know, a thing about shiny badges. Now look, just because they're in a position, you know, like that kind of thing, but not then, you know, later. So this is as grandparents, you just kind of, you got a chalkboard, you know, you just kind of make a note of this stuff in your head or on paper. And then later, you know, we're going to address that. Oh, you guys will dig this the most. It's Donna and I. We go to the first grandparents preschool thing of our first grandchild. I mean, we're all in, you know, it's a private Christian daycare kind of thing, you know, and they do their prayer, you know, and they pray and God's great, God's good thing. And then they do something and then the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. So here's a 3-year-old Pledge of Allegiance. I mean, you know what the hell's going on, right? So, but as soon as they started, all of the grandparents, everybody, 20, 30 grandparents snapped to attention, clicked their heels, and I pledge allegiance. I mean, it became a thing. I'm like, whoa, they know the words of this one. And Donna and I were the only ones sitting down with our cameras, you know, going, and we just kind of went up on the crowd. We're like, holy crap, this is how you get, you know, like, you know, 1930s Germany kind of stuff, you know? And so what do you do with that? You know, their parents, you know, my son and daughter-in-law, they know. They're just like, yeah, whatever, you know. It's, you know, they just kind of ignore it. And I'm going, no. So I'm just go, what is I mean, well, that's me. Oh, okay. Well, what's pledge? I don't know. What's allegiance? I don't know. What's that? I go, don't you think you should know that stuff before you then? Well, good point. So I that's all I said. It's a year or two later. My youngest granddaughter, she comes up to our oldest one. She goes, yeah, Papa, at school, I don't say, the teacher's in the back of the room, and I don't say the Pledge of Allegiance. I just stand there. And I go, really? Well, she's student of the planet and all that kind of crap, right? So then somebody's narking on her. They go, oh, Kaylee doesn't say the pledge. Kaylee doesn't, So they come up to the front, and she goes, well, the teacher's at the front, And I go, well, then do you say it? And she goes, well, if I don't, I have to sit on the bench in recess.
Dang.
Whoa.
And I'm like, oh, hell no. So we had this conversation. I don't want, I'm ready to make a big deal if, the parents are, and you're like, no, it's all good. As long as she understood. So I explained to her like adult what was happening, why, and, the forces involved and all that kind of stuff. So you can do what you want. But, you're going to comply. You find when you're going to stick your ground. So the whole thing was a learning thing, and explain it to her. So I feel much more comfortable that they understand. Shouldn't you understand? I mean, don't you think they're trying to just, make you think? Once they get that critical thinking and they start having confidence in themselves over anybody else, and they always ask Papa a question, they're a lot better off in their young adults. Treat them that way. And that also means you start intimidating them, or you make them feel threatened, or you're not going to have that good a relationship later on. And I'm investing like decades into the future. I'm looking for great grandkids.
It's interesting because I got in trouble for that too, but I was not in kindergarten or first grade. I was in my senior year of high school. And the assembly, it was after September 11th. We had a big assembly, and I wouldn't stand up. And I was mad, and I was sitting there, and my AP psychology teacher came, you stand up right now. I'm a veteran. You stand up right now. I'm taking you to the principal. And I'm like, take me. But it took me until I was 17 or 18 years old to even think that was something I could question. So look at the gift that you gave your grandkids. I mean, that right there, that's power. That's amazing.
Because I listen to you guys. I mean, this whole Lovevolution Revolution example, is just more data. I mean, I start to see characteristics in a lot of the younger guys that I have in my, children and my grandkids. And, I have a bunch of nephews and nieces and cousins and as time goes on, you just learn better and learn better. But the thing that I really look forward to is what they're going to learn and what they are starting to realize. And because of communication and the internet and archiving of everything, it's just the answer's out there if there's not somebody hiding it from you. Yes. That's why I've been, on this. Well, it's not so much an anti or pro-vaccine thing or nothing. It's just the truth. I'm going, there's so many lies in what they're pumping in and so on. So how do you express this to them? I mean, this is life and death kind of stuff, and forever and always. If as freedom-oriented individuals, we can give them the understanding that, their family and, somebody with a badge, not even in the same category. There's people that love them and people that want to exploit them. There's people that you want to inform them and people that want to, propagandize them. These things you can get in simple doses early on. And the example that like John and Kat do has been a big influence on me. And, we go to, events like Pork Fest or something, and they'll talk about peaceful parenting classes, or you ask the guys about it and you talk about their experiences as a child and you remember your own. And then, it just all comes around, and this information is available to a much wider group that are looking. And when we were doing we had a vaccine education summit last fall, when a lot of this stuff came out, the movie Vax came out, and then Trace Amounts. You guys, I got this movie called Trace Amounts. Just go, I encourage, go write that down. Trace Amounts, go watch it. And I'm like, it will blow you away. And I was so angry that this information is out there, but it's obfuscated. They hide it. They get the trolls to push it down, the engines to get, it's gone. Even as a good parent, if you're looking, you can't find it because they made sure you can't. And you got to prepare the young people, the children, the young children, to be able to question the right things in the right way and be as peaceful as they've been treated, and just have confidence in themselves. While I was waiting for you to come on, I just go on, what's a 30-minute I can watch on TV, quickie, something, I got 30 minutes, The Simpsons. And what was it about? One of the most recent ones is on giving everybody a trophy so they feel good about themselves, And I just going, yeah, man, this is exactly. I'm glad that you get this stuff spoofed only in animation. So I'm encouraging. I was hoping, to come on. I appreciate you letting me talk, just giving my examples. But I was hoping that I got to ask you guys some questions.
Yeah, you can take over and ask them questions. I'm sure that they'd love that. But I also want to Ernie, eventually move it over to unschooling a little for people that want to talk about that too. So go ahead, Ernie, take over.
No. This is what I was hoping to find out. The longer term, some studies of peaceful parenting and this actual technique of, treating them like adults. I mean, you can see throughout life, a lot of times that, the most productive and happy children or adults were that as children. It's the way they were treated. And I'm just wondering, being in this space, as you talk about it online and come on these shows and, read the comments and people commenting, I'm wondering what is the overall peaceful parenting technique, or what defines it, and how you can measure it, some metric that you're showing they're, happier, they can paint better, or they, they sit in a room quiet or something. I mean, some metric that you're gaining success by this.
You want to know the biggest metric for me, and I don't know if it can be necessarily quantified, but we attend an event every year called Rethinking Everything. And it's been going on for 21 years this year. And it used to be called Rethinking Education. It's an unschooling conference. And when we go to this event, we are exposed to adults who were raised by peaceful parents in an unschooling home, and they now have children. So we're able to meet 3 generations of these peaceful families, and almost every single adult that we have met that was raised this way is successful, creative, entrepreneur. I mean, they become entrepreneurs as teenagers. They're healthy, they're vibrant, they're happy, they're traveling the world, they're doing these awesome creative things that most people aren't brave enough to do when they're raised in the system, as I like to say. And the system includes, the physical force along with the structured schools and the churches and, all the systems that there are. But for us, at least for me, that's been the biggest metric ever, because we've been to all sorts of conferences and we've been around all sorts of families and all sorts of children. And this event, this is it. We go to this and I'm like, this is my tribe.
What's it called?
Rethinking Everything.
What state is that in, Kat?
Right now, it takes place on a 4-H campground in Columbiana, Alabama. It's moved around. The first time we went, it was at a hotel in... It's 21 years old this year, yeah. So it's traveled around, but right now it's on a 4-H campground. It's amazing. I mean, you show up and these kids, they have so much autonomy, so much sovereignty, and they're so wonderful. They're allowed to cuss, and they're allowed to be bad, and they're allowed to all these things, but they are some of the most polite, considerate, thoughtful. We live on a property that has 7 children. They're all unschooled and peaceful parented. And, my daughter was telling me in the car today that when she gets hurt, her friends all surround her and make sure she's okay and that she feels good. I mean, their empathy level is to the moon. Like they see someone hurting and they can feel it because feelings haven't been punished out of them. And so they come and they give love and they surround and they comfort. And it's not like, oh, stop crying, which is what I think many of us are probably used to. At least that's our...
I'm trying to pull it up here. Is it the one with the world as kind of the body of a turtle logo? Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. So it's invite only now. So it's hard to get info on it. But if you want to go, come talk to me. I'll help you out.
One thing I noticed about the attendees of this conference, and the parents and children included, the first time we went, so you have the quote-unquote liberty movement, which are people that are striving for freedom and they want freedom politically. And then this unschooling movement and the Rethinking Everything tribe, most of them don't identify as a libertarian. A good chunk of them are apolitical. A lot of them are kind of left-leaning, liberal granola, but they live freedom more so than most of the liberty activists that I know that are angry, reactionary. They're still participating in the state, but they're like mean and aggressive, and they don't follow the NAP when it comes to their children. And one thing that I noticed was these people are just so free in the way that they go about their lives and their thinking and the way that they parent especially, but also there's an emotional freedom and a whole level of consciousness, which we've especially seen in the past few years with Trump's campaign and this whole libertarian brutalism thing. There's a lot of people that don't really care about emotions. And if you want to have true freedom, the best thing to do rather than fighting external tyrants and tyrants in DC is to examine the tyrants that are inside our hearts and inside ourselves that we came about because of emotional trauma and stuff. And I think that's one thing that really stuck out for this group. There are a lot of emotionally mature people, and I think that speaks volumes to their quality of life.
Do you guys think that, because I noticed in my own life too, that I don't get along with liberty people like I used to, because I'm much more of an empath now. I'm much more chilled out and about the love, where there are a lot of reactionary, let's argue and debate every topic. And I don't want to argue and debate. I just want to, figure out how to move my life forward. And do you guys think that we're kind of born empathic and then that is taught out of us in school and parenting? Do you think kids start out empathic, or do they learn empathy?
I think we as human beings that are very social creatures, I think that were it not for the programming that's passed on to us from our parents and their parents and so on and so forth, I think that they would be much more naturally empathic. I think like my parents' generation, for example, and their parents, like they went through World War II and everything was really hardcore, and people were worried about dying, and it's not like that isn't still happening now, but it was like a huge deal. And I think it was kind of like, put up or shut up, get into a factory, we got to make some steel, there's no time for your emotions, boy, stop, there's no crying in war, And I think that ethic, that ethos was kind of imparted upon our parents. And I used to personally like pride myself in not being emotional. Like some big tragedy would happen, or there was something that was sad and people are crying, and I'm like, well, I can handle this just fine. But I realized that that's not something to be prideful about. I was denying my emotions, and they were expressing themselves in the form of outbursts and lashing out, primarily with anger. But over the past few years, as I've become more conscious of these types of things, I've had a lot of really difficult conversations with my parents. And my dad hasn't traditionally been very emotional. I know that I learned that from him. So I think if we were to put aside our programming, work through it, we would find that through the expression of emotion, we can learn a lot of ourselves. And when you're in a relationship with someone, whether it's your spouse, your friend, or your children, the vulnerable expression of emotions both ways through reciprocity allows for a much more evolved, conscious, holistic, healthy relationship all the way around.
So we've been learning about nonviolent communication. For people listening, Carl Rosenberg is sort of the, William wants to come, so does Star, they're coming. Come here, baby.
Man, I wanted to try to get them, well, I know he passed away, but I was trying to get that organization to come speak, and I can't get anywhere. So if you know anyone in that movement, or you know it, I'd love to talk more about nonviolent communication.
Yeah, there's a liberty anarchist guy named Scott Swain who's in Austin, Texas. He does a nonviolent communication meetup.
Yeah, you want to hook me up? I'd appreciate that.
I forget her name. It's something Noel, I think. She's in Austin also.
Nicole.
Nicole Noel.
Yeah.
So remind us after the interview, and we'll put you in contact with him.
Wow, I haven't seen your kids in so long. They're like, wow, they look so much like you. It's crazy. All right. Go ahead, Ernie, if you wanted to ask a question.
No, I wanted them to talk so the picture gets bigger so I can see the kids.
Oh, I can lock that in so you can see their kids. The whole family. Hey guys.
This is William. Baby Bill. Here,
William Lysander and Aliana Elizabeth. She changed her name to Stara, and then she changed it again for Leafa. She kind of goes back and forth whenever it suits her.
We'd already got all the grandparents calling her new name, Stara. And so when she changed it again, I was like, hey, so yeah, it's going to be Stara for the grandparents, because, I can't get them to change it twice.
Yeah.
Take a look at this. This is the last time at Ernie's Liberty Ernie, help me out. The Liberty Summit.
Freedom Summit.
Yeah.
Freedom Summit.
Yeah, no, they were there. They brought the kids.
But look how much she's aged already. That's
like me in that.
Yeah, she looks like Bill right there. See that?
Yeah. Bill was an infant during that time.
Yeah. That's I can't remember how many years ago was that, Ernie?
2.5.
Gosh, okay. So we haven't seen each other
in almost 3 years. They blend. After a while, they blend, you know. It was it was a few years ago. It wasn't that long ago.
It was 2014.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that was great that you guys could come.
3 years ago.
Well, this is, our children grew up with the doing Freedom Summits. I mean, they were how old were they? Like junior high, in 2001 when we were doing Freedom Summits, and they graduated high school in the mid 2000s and so on. So our 4 kids are close together, and a lot of our grandkids, that's one of the benefits. You got a bunch of grandkids. You buy one of them a present for here, and it gets used by 3 or 4 grandkids from 3 families. Because they're all the same size. But it's you can also see at the same kind of environment, the same cousins and the same aunts and uncles and all that kind of stuff, how different the kids are. And my mother's side of the family is Mormon, so they have some children's, man. My aunt and uncle had 15 kids. So I mean, my aunt, she's I think she's still in her 60s, and she has, I can't keep track, it's like 70 something grandkids or something, some ridiculous number. And this is, the families, you see this and you can see, the Dodge nose. My mother's side of the family, man, we all got this nose. I mean, that's just the way, and it goes through generations. So you can tell who is in the family, and they're so different. And how you interact with them is different. And if you access their assets or the abilities of, one to help you with the others, or, kind of, and then there's an intelligence level is, it's hard to define sometimes because they express themselves in so many different ways. And sometimes you're just not attuned to it. All of a sudden they're 8 years old and you realize they're a genius, And I'm when you talked about, nonviolent communication, I hear that a lot too, and I talk to people. How is that different from peaceful parenting?
Well, nonviolent communication is a really specific method, and so
it's like a tactic.
It's a tool, right? It's just one of many tools that we use. On the property we live on, we all have agreed to assume positive intent, right? And to use the 4 agreements, which is another book, and it's like. Don't
make assumptions.
Don't make assumptions other than positive intent, because we all agreed on that one, right? Be impeccable with your words. And another one is nonviolent communication. And with that, you're speaking in a way that it's about you. So it basically prevents people from becoming defensive. And Carl Rosenberg would say there's 2 types.
Supposed to prevent.
It's supposed to. So you can be either a giraffe or a jackal. And a giraffe is someone who's speaking in a way that isn't instigating a response, right? And a jackal is someone who's like, and so you can say why did you do that, John?
Really good, Kat. I'm just wondering, where was your exposure to that? I mean, I had a dad like that, so I'm just like, I'm wondering, where'd you learn that?
I don't know, man. My parents aren't like that at all. My parents are so soft and quiet, but it's in me. And, so I can be like, God, John, that sucks. Why do you do that? How dare you talk to me that way? Or I can say, I'm feeling really hurt right now. I need to be treated this way to feel safe in my house. And so that's about me. I'm not telling him he did anything wrong. I'm telling him how I'm feeling, and I'm telling him what I need. And I'm not saying he did anything wrong. And when you phrase it that way, he's able to say, oh, wow, you're feeling hurt. I'm sorry. I was feeling really mad, and I was trying to express myself, and gosh, it came off in a way I didn't intend.
Okay, wait. I gotta ask John. John. Okay, help me out here, man. When you guys do this, I'm always like, I've been married 33 something years. Okay, it's been a while. But my thing is okay, let's see where she's at. So I go, I know it's like you're gonna watch it.
Recorded.
I'm in trouble. My thing has been, I go, look, man, just say it. yeah, blah, 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 because you're not saying anything. Say it, be specific. What the hell are you talking about? So this is when she says that and she does that and she goes, I feel this way. I need, is she specific enough? Does it satisfy you that you understand what's going on? Thank God she's communicating. Is there a method by which the men can hear what is being said and intended, as opposed to whatever the code talk, wind talker things that they do, So is that
weaponized? Ernie, this tool can be weaponized. It really can. And we're around some people who are like NVC people, but when you're trying to communicate, and they will be like, they'll be like, don't say the word yelling because that's a label and you're labeling me and that's an attack. And it's like some people do.
They read the book.
Violent communication into a weapon, and that sucks. And that's not the point. And you don't have to be perfect at it. But the point is that if you are not attacking someone else while you're communicating, I mean, that's really what it comes down to. So if
I didn't hear from John yet. John.
Story of my life.
My question is this form of communication from your spouse, being able to do this, is that enough information that you can take that, or it keeps it down, or it slows it down, or it articulates it clearly? This method, is this something that, a man, for lack of a better term, would be able to process?
If you're in tune with, if you're compassionate and have empathy for your spouse, and they're articulate in what it is that they're feeling and what they need, then yeah, it could be something that's extremely valuable. One problem that we have had that we're just now getting through is there were several years, a good chunk of our marriage that was very rough.
The whole marriage, up until a month ago.
All right. Take that. But,
hey, it's coming out. It's coming out.
Come on, Kat. Come on.
It's therapy now. After we lost our farm that Kat mentioned earlier, like I was a real big jerk, and I was really angry and short and nasty with the whole family. And it had a lasting effect to the point where moving forward, even when I was like a normal level jerk, even though we shouldn't be jerks at all, but I was like average jerk, it would result in still a lot of trauma, because Kat would relive those particular moments when I was an extreme jerk, probably like 3 years ago. So that kind of came to mind, that even though I feel like I'm doing my best to meet Kat's needs and understand her feelings, she's looking at me.
I'm enjoying the facial expressions here.
There's still a lot there. Like as you get married, or any significant others, or most relationships, there's an issue that shows up on the surface, but you have the bottom of the iceberg, right. Really the thing. And thankfully, we're just now starting to really begin to heal from that. But for the longest time, even though she expressed a need and I felt like I was meeting that need, there was still a lot of underlying issues that were causing a lot of tension, and one that allowed us to get through that was me just accepting my role in that, because for the longest time I was in denial. I didn't want to accept the role that I played in hurting my children and my wife especially. And when I finally accepted that, first I did a whole lot of crying, but it was a lot of healing, and I think that we've been in a really good space as of late, and these tools have helped us quite a bit.
Very cool. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I tell you, it was a few years ago, as I go 14 or something. It wasn't that long ago. I was coming from Texas, Austin. I was at a Bitcoin thing there, and I'm driving back. So I'm like, well, this is a 20-hour drive, and I did 9-10 hours of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Okay.
Classic.
And I never, that my generation, you heard about this all the time, growing up, blah, 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 blah. So I go, all right, I'm in, I got that. How long? Okay, well, that's good enough. Put it on. I laughed my ass off through about half of that thing. And I was like, nobody told me this stuff. And I gave it to my children, each of my kids. I go, I guarantee you didn't learn any of this stuff from me, and you need to, know about this. Well, one of my sons and daughter-in-law, they went on vacation, and they listened to it on, I don't know, MP3 or whatever. And I'm going, this is powerful. And it had something that I'll share with you, because John, you got a strong wife. I just know this came up, okay? Well, to sum it up, it went like this. One, it said, don't follow the dragon into his cave. And the guy is like, just leave me alone. I'm home for I got to process stuff. I need to chill. You go in your cave. Well, when the woman goes in, it falls into the cave. Well, you get burned by the dragon. Just leave him alone. So I definitely vote that part. The other one, the main thing is that women communicate to express feelings where men communicate to express, to transfer data. It's like you hunt it, you kill it, you put it in the bag, you're done, and it's like going shopping. I'm not, whatever. So what happened was when Donna would start, it'd be like at the end of the day, we have a work day because we work here. It's like 5, 6 o'clock. There's no set time. It's just kind of, dinner and you're done with it. Okay, I'm done with it. Are you done? We're done. You're done. Then when you transfer information, you have as a producer host relationship, I need the facts, just the fact, tell me, yes, no, I don't want to colors and I don't care. I mean, we got stuff to do and work. Then in the evening, there's this transition period. Are we talking, transferring data? Am I taking notes? Or is this you're expressing feelings? Well, until I listened to that audiobook of Men Are From Mars, Women From Venus, I didn't understand. I would say, why didn't you say, I'm going through for a walk through the labyrinth. I always say that, the labyrinth, the maze. She's talking because she'd say something and then it'd be off in the squirrel. Off the side. What the hell does this have to do with that? Well, if you just listen, and it's what about the nail? You guys ever seen that video, What About the Nail? Put it up. What about the nail? What about the nail? You watch that. I tell you, women don't like it. Men thinks it's hilarious, okay? And there's a reason, all right? Because it's true. But anyway, I digress. But what happened was...
Stay on point, Ernest.
What happened? I'm almost done. So what happened was, I'm like going through this labyrinth. I'm like, what does these 3 separate topics have to do with each other? I don't get it. I'm like, I'm taking, I'm paying attention. I'm a lot. I'm writing. I'm like getting notes in my head and then squirrel. And I'm, whoa, time freaking out. What the heck is going on? In the book, it was like men relay, information. So you make a decision. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. I'll do that. Let's go golfing. I mean, it's done. Women, they communicate feelings through these stories. And that's what I didn't pick up, is that she wasn't any one of those things didn't have anything to do, didn't mean anything. It was just how that circumstance made her feel. This made her feel that way. This made her feel kind of the same way. And this thing, why she had a bad day, were these feelings that are represented by these stories. And that's okay. You're always trying to fix everything. Well, you just do this. They don't want it fixed. It already happened. There is no fixing it, It's just expressing this feeling. So once you get that down, then it started to evolve into this, nonviolent communication. And I can see all these things as I get old enough. I see all these different fads or different philosophies or different things that they teach at Bible study or something like that in church and everything. And you start to see how it all comes down to the same thing. Men and women are different, man. Get over it, but you got to find a way to communicate. That's why I asked you, John, when she does this and I feel this, I go, is that enough information or is it just expressing feelings that aren't necessarily decoded? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I very much know what you mean. And it took me having to learn to hear feelings and to feel feelings myself truly to be able to, to be in a space where what she says could resonate with me rather than me just being frustrated and annoyed. And I think we're finally at that space after 4 years of marriage and knowing each other for 7 years.
In John's defense, I just got, oh yeah, he gets some support here. Hell yeah. The guy gets a little bit of something here. I mean, damn it. Oh yeah, the red pill. This woman, she's a feminist. She does this documentary out of Australia. Man, nobody wants to see this documentary. They're trying to, you can't do, because she started to see how men were underrepresented when it came to these kind of issues. We're always the bad guy. We're always the one at fault. We're always, whoa. And she's like, yeah, I'm not, I'm a little bit more sympathetic now. So I'm just saying, Kat, if you can communicate, I know it's, a fact is how something made you feel. That's a fact. And I'm going, okay, this is what I think is happening. They're trying to get you to, it's like, iOS to Android or something, it's so you can see what's going on. So I encourage that.
Well, Ernie, honestly, when we first lost the farm, and John was because he had never, like, he always had his normal like grumpy thing, you know, but he wasn't a total asshole until we lost the property. And then I think, you know, he was going through a lot of like, he felt like he had lost a lot, and we all felt that way. And I think for him, there was this like duty to be the one providing it all. And I was pissed at the way he was acting, and I was a huge bitch in response, right? So like, he was being a jackal, and in response, I was a jackal. But the thing with nonviolent communication is it takes one person to be a giraffe, and then by the end of the conversation, it's almost impossible for anyone to stay being a jackal, and that doesn't have to be gender specific. And so we spent a good year being jackals, and our children are like watching this like, this is awful, right? And it's like, we're both jackals. And I just decided, I mean, he became less of a jackal over time, but it was still jackal. And, you know, this stuff, like a month ago, I was just finally like, no more jackal. I'm going to be a giraffe. And if you want to be around me, you got to be a giraffe too. And like, I stopped being a jackal. And then all of a sudden, John stopped being a jackal. And it actually—
Is that something you learned, you decided, or is from, you know, taking this class, or what?
I just decided it. I was so sick of being unhappy. You know, it was like 3 years of just like stress and anxiety and fighting and I'd been studying all these modalities of communication. And honestly, here's what it is. We moved onto this property. There's 7 children, 4 families. They all unschool. And it's single moms. John's the only man on the property, which is kind of cool for him.
Help me to get in touch with my feminine side.
And but the truth is, like, these women are all so much more advanced in these communication modalities than we were. And so when there would be like a conflict within the tribe, they could sit down and model it for us. And as soon as I got it, I was like, wow, I can do this. And so the woman who owns the property was going through this custody thing with her son's dad. And I've been able to stand there in between the two of them. And when she's feeling triggered and mad, she touches my arm and we reset and we try to say it again with nonviolent communication. So where she used to be a jackal and she would yell, she now had me standing there saying, hey, let's be giraffes together, right? And if she felt the instinct to become a jackal, she would just grab my arm, and that was my signal to reset the conversation. And so I was able to help the two of them through a series of like 6 conversations to stop being jackals together. And it was their choice, but they needed someone there to kind of be the intermediary. And for John and I, it was the same thing. Like he'd get slam a table, and I'd go run outside, and I would have someone right there, and I'd say, I feel afraid, John's being a jerk. And then John would come and be like, hey, wow, let's talk. And we had someone there. And by having that and being around people who are more experienced in that kind of world of communication, it really allowed me to step into it, which then I think allowed John to step into it. But honestly, being around a bunch of libertarians, we weren't exposed to these like healthy communication modalities at all. And so these are families that we met at Rethinking Everything over the past several years. All of us have been to that event. And just 3 of us, you know, there's a RV, our converted school bus, and a travel trailer, and then the woman who owns the property is in the house, and we all kind of found each other. And so this is something we're learning and we're exploring together. And I would rather be a giraffe. I don't want to be a jackal. I don't want to be angry. I don't want to be stressed.
You know, if I was John, I would rather be able to get along with a bunch of women. That you know, you don't need them all teamed up against you. That would suck. So, you know, I'm getting the feeling that, you know, there's a little bit of incentive, you know, check your 6 all the time if you're not, you know, on your best behavior. That's got to be an influence, John. Come on, man.
I do want to step in for a sec, because I think this is an important point that we've been talking about, because we're like, you know, what does this have to do with peaceful parenting or unschooling? I think people just rush into having kids without even really learning how to communicate themselves. And I think it's something we're not really taught. We grow up in whatever family we're in, and we assume that's the correct way to communicate, when there's much more peaceful and better ways to, you know, you don't always have to, actually, in fact, you shouldn't really always win. You know, it's the whole win-win is great if you can pull it off, but sometimes just communicating defuses everything and brings a level down. And I think that most couples, they either have to go to therapy or counseling or work on it. It's not something we just instinctually know. We're wired different. and that you have to learn this stuff, because how good of a parent can you be if that's what you're setting when you two can't even communicate as parents? How the hell has your kid got a chance of communicating properly with you guys?
Exactly.
So you got to spend the time and step up and learn how to peacefully communicate. And it takes practice, man, because it's a lot of rewiring triggers. You know, people will say something, especially your spouse or your girlfriend.
Breaking the cycle for the kids.
Man, they know how to push the buttons and hit the triggers. And there's a lot you have to do to get rid of the triggers. So I think it's very important to address the fact that you're not going to do that good of a job of parenting if you and your spouse can't communicate.
That's right.
Yeah, and you could see the result when Kat and I, when parent fights in front of their children, like the kids just break down and just are turned into emotional wrecks, and it's difficult. But I think in going through that, because our children have seen both of it now, and my daughter saw the happy-go-lucky me when we had a simple life living on a farm, and we literally got paid to do videos about chickens and freedom and stuff. And then we lost the farm, and my daughter saw a different side of me, but my son, for the most part, just saw the grumpy workaholic me. But now, as of late, both of them are seeing the contrast, and I think it's going to be really, it's going to help them to build character, to see the dichotomy between my parents that were angry, that didn't know how to deal with conflict, they were constantly at each other, to my parents that are happy and kind of enamored with each other. I think they're really going to be inspired to go through that with their significant others and their friends and their loved ones.
Well, and all the kids are involved with the conflict resolution on the property. We've been there since January 6th. And if there's two parents or two adults having a conflict, there's kids sitting there and they're listening and they're watching and they're paying attention and they're part of it. And it's not like, oh, excuse me, there's grown-ups having a conversation. You know, they're there and they're part of it and they're watching this all flesh out. And for me, I think that is something, you know, my parents did model really well for me. I never have seen my parents yell or raise their voice. And so that's part of why John's anger was really traumatic and jarring for me, is because my parents didn't do that. And when they had a conflict, they sat at the kitchen table and they talked. And when I first met John and I would try to talk to him about stuff, it was like, this is awful, don't do this, I can't take it. And it was, I couldn't figure it out.
You were a dragon half the time too. Like,
well, I was breathing fire. I totally acknowledge that. That's not that's my, I'm a fire breather.
I've seen that fire. I've seen it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. Like, we know, okay?
We know the fire.
We're way more sympathetic than, the audience is getting, the cat's, the bad John. Okay.
Kat, have you actually seen the kids? Have they been around it enough where all of a sudden they're using the same tools to deal with stuff with themselves, like without you guys getting involved? Are they using, like, has it started to come across yet, or is that too much of a pie in the sky?
So the 7 kids, their age range is from age 4 to age 11. And when we first got there, poor Bill, he was the youngest one. He was 3 when we first got there. And I felt this motherly instinct to like stand up for him and to be in the middle of it all. But then when I realized if I just shut my mouth and backed up, they were talking about it and they would ask me if they needed help. I didn't have to go get in the middle of it. And so we're kind of at this really, really special spot with these 7 kids. And of course they have friends that come over, and it's, it's a little tribe. But they're figuring out their own conflict resolution. And for example, there was one kid that would always storm off, and his response when he wasn't getting his way would be like, fine, I'm not going to play. Well, and at first I'm going to chase him down, and hey, the kids are crying and they're so upset. Here's so that leveled out on their own. The kids were able to communicate, hey, you know what? It really hurts our feelings when you run off. We would rather you just tell us what's wrong, and we'll try and fix it, right? So here's one example where there was, nudity is a thing when you're peacefully parenting and you don't want to like force your kids to wear clothes. And so they're 2 years old and their wanker's flapping out and they're doing their thing. And all these kids were raised that way, right? With that kind of freedom, where it's like when they wanted to get dressed, then they started getting dressed. Well, one of the kids, he's 6 years old, and there's a swing that goes over the trampoline. And all the kids jump on the trampoline, and then the swing's kind of like tag. Well, he's naked. And he's hanging upside down on the swing, and his butt is just sticking out. And all the kids are like, no, put on your clothes. Now, instantly, me and my friend Nova, we're like, don't shame him for being naked, and we like want to get in the middle of it, right? And he went inside, and we think he's inside crying, and we think he's so upset. And then like 4 minutes later, he bursts out of the house and he's like, I'm dressed, I'm back. And it was like no problem for him because he got it. His friends didn't want his butt in their face. He totally got it. And so our instinct to like get in the middle of it and cause this, you better apologize to him. He's feeling embarrassed. I bet he feels so ashamed. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you humiliated him that way. He wasn't embarrassed at all. He heard his friends saying, I don't want your butt in my face. And he went and got dressed and it was fine. So it's pretty cool. I think
there's one other question I had, before, Tarrin won't let me talk anymore. But the there was an activist that all you guys have met here, and he said something that had a big impact on me. He goes, young generation like you guys, there's ways of being able to, live a life, and even, adverse possession of homes that are gone to the state, from somebody with no heirs, and why are we letting the state, yada, yada. So he was making that point. But what happened in the talk, he said something, he goes, they're taking away all our rest. All the interest, all the payment, all on the grid, all the mandatory minimums of the power, the water, the sewer, the trash, on and on and on and on. You can't just take your energy, put it on a piece of property and just build. And you got, for yourself and the next generation, you just build. We have such great technology now that, we could live an autonomous life. And he goes, it's because they've taken away all our rest. You're working to pay the interest. You're working to do, instead of just being able to just, work, I don't know, however many hours a day, if any, you want. And then, you provide for yourself and you just sit on the porch and you're good. You got rest. All that spare time is continually being eked away. It's taken away. And I'm wondering, when you guys live in a community like that, you come together, do you feel more rested that
yes!
you have?
Oh yeah.
Yes, it's amazing. This has been the best 6 months of my life as a parent, honestly, because my son, he doesn't depend on me to entertain him all day. He wakes up and he goes and he greets all the other families, and Star has her friend.
Hello, we see you.
And like all of a sudden, I'm able to be creative again, because the way we were doing it, we were so isolated. We're like unschooling and homeschooling and entrepreneurs, and I'm at home by myself alone all day, taking care of kids that are unhappy and unfulfilled, and John's never home and he's grumpy when he is. And now all of a sudden, I'm able to be creative and I'm able to do my own projects and actually, because that was a big thing for me when we got pregnant and started having kids. I didn't feel like I was contributing to the betterment of society in the way that I used to, right? Sure, raising kids, I get that. It is like the best thing you can do.
Yeah, man, you were just about ready to get dressed down on that one. Raising kids is it, I think I remember saying that to you.
But I also like to create in a different way, and I like to do it on a daily routine basis. And I felt like that had been taken away from me. And there was this like expectation that John could go out and be John, and I had to stay home and take care of the kids, and it felt unfair, and it was really hard. And all of a sudden, my life isn't hard anymore, and I get to be creative, and I do feel fulfilled, and I feel productive and happy. I mean, I'm happy for the first time in 3 years, honestly, since we lost.
Hey, John, are you getting to build and like do stuff or make or be creative, or that's one thing. It's kind of like, I guess you need your own place to do something. Do you got the man cave somewhere? John, are you taken care of? They take care of you? You got a man cave?
My man cave is when I drive and I'm by myself and I get to myself. That's about it. Because we live in a converted school bus, so I don't have any private space. But I've been doing a lot of walking and just sitting and thinking. So my man cave's up here these days.
We've been meditating a lot.
Have you guys as far as when you were trying to do the sovereign living thing and you were just isolating yourself and raising your kids, you found that it was much more difficult? Like, I don't know how many families would ever try living in a community, but if you can find the right community, it sounds pretty awesome.
It's amazing. And honestly, for us, the sovereign living community, they were not peaceful parents. And when we started having children, that became a big point of contention. People were not happy that we weren't hitting our children. I mean, and so the parenting thing caused a lot of friction. And so when we left the farm, we spent 2 years in an apartment, very alone, while John was out working all the time. And then we moved into the school bus, which was great, but it was all adventure. It was all travel, all adventure, no community, except when we would be at like the Jackalope Freedom Festival or at Rethinking Everything. And so now we have both. We have adventure and community. And now I'm able to do things that are fun and feel good for me. And for me, that's the Homestead Guru blog. I love it. I've been able to turn it into a business. See, here's the fighting. We might be reaching our. I'm gonna go entertain my son for a minute because he's hurting my sister.
No problem. Go ahead.
Or he's hurting his sister.
Yeah, shelf life is winding up, man.
You're doing good. You're doing good. Let's finish though, because we haven't even talked about the Homestead blog you do. We haven't talked about Brave New Books. We haven't done that, and we really haven't got too much into unschooling. We might have to pull you back in a month or two for another show.
Yeah, I can give you the cliff notes on unschooling. So yeah, unschooling is basically a educational style, an educational philosophy whereby the children's interests and the children's needs take precedent over what the parents think the children ought to be doing or what they ought to be learning. So as parents, we really just act as facilitators of our children's interests. So our daughter was into dancing, so we signed her up for dance class, made sure she had dance shoes and got her to dance on time, and made sure all our family was there to support her during the recital. My son, and she's into nature. They like exploring and going on hikes and stuff. So recently she was taking a Tuesday and Thursday 2-day class in Austin called the Austin Science and Nature School, which they just go on hikes and explore, and they have animal visitors and stuff, and they just love it. So basically it's a freedom type of education, and most of the time what they're doing is playing with their friends and exploring and playing games, and they do a lot of make-believe. And there's older children on the property, and when it comes to stuff like reading, the other kids are teaching them to read. And of course we read books with them, and we sound things out, and we have the alphabet magnets on the refrigerator and stuff, and there's always opportunity to learn just for fun or just because it's part of what we're doing. But my daughter's starting to read in large part because she wants to understand the board games that they're playing, and she wants to be able to play Minecraft completely on her own without having to ask what this particular element is. And it's cool to sit and watch the older kids like explain to her what the words are and sound it out. So a lot of people think, well, without a curriculum or without being in public school, how are they going to learn to read? How are they going to learn their basic science and arithmetic? But when a child isn't pressured to learn those things, just as a human being, we're sponges. We have a desire to learn and to explore and to understand our environment and our surrounding. I think that's just an intrinsic part of our nature. So when the children are free to do that, it doesn't become like a chore or a task that they're forced to do. And we found that they actually enjoy doing it, and it just comes about naturally. Now, we have recently been bumping heads with my mom and with one of the parents, the fathers, one of the ex-husbands of one of the ladies that lives on our property. They're kind of getting judgmental and anxious about whether or not the children are at the appropriate age level and the appropriate grade level, if they understand and can read and do the right math problems for a particular age level. And first of all, when you actually go down to the brass tacks of whether or not they are, and more often than not, they are. But those types of age ranges and groups and requirements and standards are completely arbitrary. And at the end of the day, they're based on a system that's intended to churn out drones that are going to go into this corporate hierarchical institution known as government in American Western society. So really, for now, me and Kat were just talking about this, articulating the important values for our children are happiness, health, and freedom. And smarts and book smarts and stuff, I believe, is an outgrowth. Whenever you have a child that's given the freedom to do what they love, they're happy and fulfilled and they're healthy, that's going to come naturally. It's not one of the main values that we're trying to instill in our children. So whether or not a child can read at a particular age level, or if they're keeping up with who they would be with if they were in public school, it doesn't matter to us as long as our kids are happy and healthy. And Kat and I are bright people, so our kids are naturally with it, but I think giving them the freedom to explore their world on their own based on what they're interested in, rather than us, even if we were homeschooling, obviously we're not going to send our kids to government public schools. Malcolm X said only a fool would let his enemy teach their children. while I do have compassion for folks that can't make the homeschooling work, I think there are ways to make it work. The unschooling for us is just much more in line and consistent with what our views are and our beliefs. And also at the end of the day, I think it's going to produce the most genuine, autonomous child that's whole and fulfilled that we could possibly imagine. And we're really excited to see our children grow, and we're amazed every single day. I can't imagine how cool and with it they're going to be when they're adults. It's pretty cool. We're excited.
And honestly, on the property we're on, all of the children who are older than the age 7 can read. And none of the parents sat down with workbooks and taught them how to do that. They all learned. And Jaja, Najaya, and Stara, my daughter, Stara, they are both learning to read in part from Minecraft, right? Because they want to be able to read what the little items they're putting in their treasure chest, and they want to be able to make signs on the buildings that they make. And so, I had anxiety about technology and my kids at first, and I finally decided to just kind of let go and let live. And in the end, that's letting them learn. They are now able to learn to read organically through their own interests. And I'm not forcing her to sit down and write in a workbook. I'm letting her play Minecraft, and she's learning to spell and learning to read, and it's going really well. I also think the baby science had a lot to do with laying that foundation. But another example is Noble on the property that we're on. He has a YouTube channel, Dreaded Animations. Go check him out. He does stop action animation with Mega Blocks. So he makes these really intricate, like multiple frames per second stop action animation videos, and he is self-taught on everything. He's learning how to use the technology. I'm helping him build his website. He's got his YouTube channel. And this is a kid who's been allowed to explore technology at his own pace, using his own interests. And sometimes we don't see him outside for 3 or 4 days because he's working so hard on a project. And you know what? I'm the same way. Sometimes I'm completely redesigning my website, and the people we live with don't see me for a couple of days because I'm doing something I love and that I'm passionate about. So it's really neat for me being around older kids on the property at the same time, because they're showing me that we're doing it right. They're showing me that this method, it does work. It can work. They will learn to read. They will learn math. He's learning math. It takes math to figure out how long to make each frame to be able to fit, X amount of frames per second. Like, he is learning this stuff on his own organically, and he's an entrepreneur, and I'm going to help him monetize his website. And by the time that he is at the age I was, graduating college, he's going to have a business, and he's going to be making money. And I wish that I had monetized the website 15 years ago, and I didn't. But he's given the freedom to do that. I mean, how many 10-year-olds on this planet are able to take the time to create art that can be turned into a business? I mean, that's just unheard of. I think it's so beautiful. I love unschooling. Love it.
So do the kids.
Ernest, did you want to comment on that? Because I know you had some friends that did stuff like that.
No, we're trying to emulate Dorothy Babb. I mean, there's a girl that started with her father, James, 3D printing the magnets, going around Pork Fest selling them, and won Agora Pitch. That's right.
She beat John. She beat John.
Yeah. She got an ounce of gold coin for selling out and it was support for a young person being an entrepreneur and just seeing a niche and making money. And I tell you, we're doing the same thing here. My oldest granddaughter, she's 8. And we took and made borax crystals and did them in different colors. And I go, you know what, that'd be cool. We'll make them a certain size. And then we go on Amazon and we ordered these LED lights. It just it has a little thing that you can hang up, and you put it on the crystal, and it's like a Christmas ornament. And you can 3D print, a little case to hold it. Or we have these bulbs that we got, and we're trying all kinds of stuff. And I'm going, we can assembly line this, put that on Etsy. You go make some money. You want to make some money? Papa help you make some money. We're going to learn how to make us some Christmas ornaments. So that's one thing that we're looking. We have it all ready and kind of tested it, and we're going to be doing this summer. But I know what kids, especially with something that's like Christmas. It's going to be, I'm going to have to put the, future goggles on them and have them understand all this work that they're doing now in July, is going to pay off, like October, November. And when it does, and if they'll do it, and I go, see, now you see all this pile of money you got right here? It could have been 10 times pile of money if you were working before. So this will be a lesson, and I'm going, then if it takes off, I'll just, kick her out and, never signed anything with her, and I'll be the rich, crystal maker guy. No, that's how I do.
Well, you need a hobby, and you don't have enough on your plate.
Yeah, I got plenty to do.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things ever is I really dig the unschool idea because you don't have this fight over do your homework. You don't have this control thing of, Mom, why am I learning algebra? This is BS. And why am I learning, because when we talk to people that government school, like what I was in, 90% of the stuff I learned I don't use. I mean, it was just a waste of time. Yep. Instead, these kids are actually learning something they give a damn about, and they're excited, and you probably don't have to have that struggle with them of go do your homework, right?
Well, sometimes, you get them into what they want to do, what they need to do it. They want to learn the algebra on their own. Right. And I made a point where you're building a trailer. They wanted a motorcycle. Yeah, how are you going to haul it? He's going to go in the back of my, sedan. I mean, so we decided that we would buy a welder, a wire feed welder, and the steel. And for the same amount we could buy a trailer for, we could buy a trailer and have all the stuff to make a trailer and have all the stuff to make it again, So we did that. And there was an angle, the way the tongue was, that we had to figure out the distance of the bend of the whatever. And here come the trigonometry. And I go, well, this hypotenuse here, I don't know. I think we're going to have to use some math, And so if they get something that they want, or there's something they want to attain and it requires the math, fine, I got to. But some of them are predisposed to that. So I don't want to say that there's anything off limits, especially when you got I got to say this. Khan Academy had an hour of coding thing. It's great. They learn how to code. It's great. The problem that I have with all these curriculum, we had Defending Archimedes, this .com. We have, Defending the Future Geniuses, these young kids. But I don't want a Firefly Serenity, 2x2 hands of blue and come take River Tam my kid out because they're too smart. Or you must be in service of the state. So I'm going, when they do this Khan Academy thing, they want an account for every kid, and it tracks their brain. It's like really a permanent record. And when Bill Gates gets all involved with Khan Academy, I'm not feeling any better, So I'm going, no, we have one grandpa account, and they can just get over it. And if your brother messes up and gets you a lower average or something, you'll get over it, but it's the information. But I would like to have all of this data on each kid. I would like to have their, reward system. I would like to, not on somebody else's server. I want the program. I want to be able to, it's my information. Hell with you guys. Oh, but it's free. No, it's not. It's getting a, magnifying glass in my kid's brain. So I'm going, no, hell no. But these are the things that I can already see are changing from efforts like, Kat and John's and examples and us coming in with this mentality. That's where the libertarian, the voluntarist, the leave me aloneists come in, and we start to go, these are the things you need to be worried about. This is the surveillance stuff that you should be concerned about. These are the things that, should be, like John was saying, the goals that you're looking for may not be what, the man wants. So I'm really big into it, but I see how fast technology is changing. That's why our pirate thing, we'll talk about another time. But it's all the promotion of decentralization of everything, especially raising children.
Yeah, I think that stability comes through decentralization, whether it's decentralizing your income or decentralizing your education. If you have multiple sources of learning in your life, you're going to have the most stable, well-rounded learning experience, and that's just how it works. So our kids get to spend time at home diving into technology, and then we travel all across the country, and someday I hope the globe, and they're exposed to different cultures and different communities and different ways of living and talking and thinking and communicating, and all of this is learning. And I was going to say, before Ernie said about the algebra, the goal is to wait for them to ask, and as soon as they say, Mom, how do I do this, or how do I learn that, or can you teach me this, then you sit down with the books and the resources, and you're like, let's figure it out. And one awesome example, very similar to the trailer, is there's this big pool on the property we're on, and they wanted to move it to a different spot because it was too close to the property owner's bedroom window, and the kids were being too loud. And so it required draining the pool, finding a level spot, which there weren't any. So then they had to import sand and create a level space. And she's got all the kids involved doing the level and the mathematics and the trigonometry and the, figuring all this stuff out. And so there's age 4 all the way up through age 11, and they're all learning math willingly because they want the pool to be moved and they want to fill the pool up, and they're figuring out, well, how much of this do I need to put in with the water, and what is it going to take to do this? And the question was, how do we do this, Mom? How do we move the pool? And she's like, I'll tell you how. Let's figure it out. And so, sometimes she would be like, okay, how do we create a sieve? Because we need to drain the pool, right? And so the 11-year-old, he's getting on YouTube. He's learning how to make a sieve. He's trying different hoses, sucking on the hoses. He finally gets one to work. And this 11-year-old drained the whole swim pool by himself with an empty hose. I mean, that's phenomenal.
Siphon. The word was siphon. I was wondering, sieve. I'm going, how does that work? Oh, okay. I know what she's trying to say.
Siphon.
Hey, the 11-year-old wouldn't have gotten that wrong.
Right.
The knowledge of so much more value for the child when they learn it on their own accord rather than when it's pushed upon them. They take more ownership in that information, and I think that enables them to be more autonomous and just more strong in their convictions and the knowledge that they have. And it's not our agenda either. We're kind of letting them lead their own lives, and we're learning a whole lot from it. And I know that they feel empowered. And one thing, going back to the peaceful parenting stuff, Kat has tattooed on her arm, "Question everything." And I always joke when we do like speeches and stuff. Yeah, show that off there, Kat.
Yeah, we can see it.
Sure. She especially questions her husband.
Everything.
But yeah, just question everything, and we're empowering our children to question everything, including us. So we have this little thing in our family where when somebody like calls someone out about something, we say, "Call out."
Call out.
And like we're all about holding the government accountable, but our children help to hold us accountable. And this question everything mentality, as Kat was saying earlier on in the interview, if you force your children to be obedient, there's this great saying that disobedience is not a problem if obedience is not the goal. I think that was Dana Martin, or she would reference that. She's a great resource on unschooling, Dana Martin. But we haven't broke our children. Like a horse gets broken. We haven't broken our children, and they have the sovereignty and they have the willpower to question things, including us. And as Kat was saying,
cops.
In the future, this is going to enable them to question authority, and they're not going to be programmed from an early age by their parents, by teachers, by law enforcement, by pledge allegiance to the flag, to just willy-nilly accept the status quo. They're going to challenge the status quo. And at the end of the day, that's where change happens, not just in our own lives and our children's lives, but on a societal scale. As more children and more generations grow up this way, it's going to reverberate throughout the entire world. And I'm excited for the future because of things like peaceful parenting and all these voluntarists getting more conscious and enlightened. And then you couple that with decentralized technology and cryptocurrency. And I think Ernie is rightfully optimistic about the future prospects for liberty.
Yeah, I think so too.
And
my daughter at age 3, I have a distinct memory of her saying, "Mom, why are you being such a bitch?" Okay, and when a 3-year-old says that to you, you're like, "Oh, I guess I am. I'm so sorry. I'm feeling really stressed out." But she is able to say that to me. It is safe for her to say that to me. Like she's not going to get hit, yelled at, spanked. You do say that.
Yeah, not as often as I could.
Yeah, they're definitely mirrors. I got to tell you, my oldest daughter, her daughter now, she's about 3.5 at the time, and my son-in-law, they're going to take a night out, and one of the women from his office, let me babysit. She goes there, she comes in the door, and the dogs are barking, and the first thing, the little girl says, "Shut up," and they look at each other, and I'm going, "Gee, I wonder where that came from," the dog. So I mean, they're just, you got to be careful, man. You got to be careful.
I think, you know, in this show, we focus a lot on the next wave, what's coming to basically evolve as a people, you know? We want to get past the negativity of this planet, and what do we have to do to evolve? And I think this is a huge way for the next generations. And some people have these indigo kids that are like beyond geniuses that can do stuff. And having this kind of way to do this and reach these children, I think allows them to be themselves and amplify out and project what needs to happen. Like, we got to support these kids, and that's not really going to be done with a violenting parenting style, you know. I think the next generation, if we're going to make it better, we got to support with this. We got to at least try something different than what's been done, and I'm really digging the new vibe on that.
Yeah. Now, I want Kat and John to check out pirateswithoutborders.com. This is a project we're launching this summer. We're going to be at PorkFest with it. Been working on it since like October. Just pirateswithoutborders.com. You know, listen to the or read the first letter of Mark, and you'll dig it. I'm going to be contacting you guys on it. Tarrin knows about it. I want to make sure you guys, you know, looked it up.
We will.
Awesome.
Okay, we're going to start winding the show down.
Brave New Books. We didn't hear about that.
Yeah, Brave New Books. You want to go ahead and tell us about what that is, John, and for anyone in that area? Or I guess you guys are also online, though. So go ahead and talk to us.
Yeah, Brave New Books. We've been in operation for 11 years. My wife and I took over the store from the previous operator 2 years ago. And we sell products ranging from subversive literature, natural health, natural beauty products. One of our best-selling products right now is Kratom, which is a member of the coffee family, grown primarily in Indonesia. It's ground-up leaves of the Kratom tree leaf. And man, it really helps people with anxiety, stress, relaxation, pain. There's a lot of people that take it instead of prescription painkillers. I take it for stress and mental focus whenever I'm starting to kind of get cloudy because I got so many things going on. It really just helps to put me in the zone. And we have so many customers that take it instead of taking prescription painkillers. And some people even use it to get off of heroin. But we also sell CBD oil. We have our own brand, Brave Botanicals. We recently moved our store out of the location that we were at for 10 years. And so if you're in the Austin, Texas area, our products can now be found at Capital Coin and Bullion on 7304 Burnett Road. Or you can go to bravenewbooks.store, bravenewbooks.store to buy our products online. And if you go to bravebotanicals.com, you'll be able to find our own Kratom line that we ship in. We import from Indonesia, and we package it. And it's just been really cool to be a part of this Kratom movement. Many people are familiar with that. The DEA tried to add it to Schedule 1 like 8 months ago, but they failed miserably, thankfully. The government actually did the right thing in that instance, and a bunch of congressmen and U.S. senators got involved.
No, because a bunch of people freaked out. That's why.
Yeah.
There's a whole subculture behind it. A lot of people depended on it to lead a normal life. There's people that have been addicted to Oxycontin for like 9 years, and they can't take care of their grandchildren, and they try Kratom. Boom, they're able to quit the Oxycontin with no withdrawals. Now they can manage their pain. So when the government came a knocking, people stood up and rose up, and thankfully they pushed back. So Kratom's great. We have some of the highest quality stuff around. So definitely check that out. And we're still organizing events and stuff in Austin, Texas. The website's bravekratom.com if you wanted to try Kratom, bravekratom.com.
I have tried it. I had several strains. We had a gentleman came, and it was called, his name's Billy Kratom, he goes by, and did a talk at our breakfast club. And then he also did a show. And it was amazing. All the Sun City West guys came in. They've been just buying it. It's legal, you know, and it's been getting them off prescription medicine, which is why the man doesn't like it.
Yeah.
You know? So
Yeah.
it's the same old story, man.
We might have to have you come back and talk about that. That's an interesting topic on its own.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Yeah, we're way into natural health, and one thing that I've been passionate about lately has been self-improvement. And we started a self-improvement group on Facebook. It's called Brave New You. If you search Brave New You Self-Improvement Group, you can join this Facebook group. And really what it is just people posting, they're having trouble, they're struggling, they're feeling depressed. It's also a lot of inspirational stuff and quotes and stories and stuff about meditation. And we're growing a community. There's about 80 or 90 people now, and we hope to continue to grow it. But it's just a lot of people leaning on one another to help improve their life and lead a more fulfilling and happy life. our tagline is Brave New You, live the life you love. And I think through community and vulnerability, we can do just that. So I invite people on Facebook to check that out. If you just search Brave New You Self-Improvement Group, it's something that I've been passionate about, inspired by Tony Robbins of all people. Something that we're really into right now.
Very cool. And maybe you guys would like to come and talk about that. I forgot to, because John and Kat sometimes don't have very good internet, so they don't really know what I'm doing. We also have a community after this that we sit around and talk and support each other. It's a very positive community. Over it, I call it the afterglow chat. So after we finish with a guest, sometimes the guest will jump in and talk, and there'll be 20, 30, sometimes 50 people over there, where it is like an old school chat room where you can text, but you can also talk with people voice, like a giant voice call. And I'm going to post it's called the Afterglow, but I'm going to post the link right here. And anybody that wants to join, just hit that and we'll get you through. And it'll be happening right after the show. So you want to keep going. I might try to, convince John and Kat to swing over there and talk to some parents that are trying to understand this more. And it's a crazy concept for some people, and but they're very interested. I think it's finding its time finally.
Yeah. I'll let you guys go without me. Tarrin's like, no,
I love you, Ernie. You can come to the Discord anytime, dude.
There you go. Well, I appreciate you. It's amazing that you'll have me come on because you have such interesting topips and guests. And I'm just naturally an interviewer, so I'm just like, I want to know this and this and this and this.
Well, that's fine. And, and I would be, I know you haven't seen these guys for a long time either. We got to do this every few months.
Yeah.
Really, it's good to see you guys. I'm glad things are going well. You're feeling better.
I know Ernest is going to PorcFest, but you guys don't go to PorcFest anymore, right? Like, it's too much of a haul.
About it, but after they banned Ian Freeman, we're kind of like, nah.
All right, let me tell you the story. They're doing PorcFest from Wednesday to Sunday, I guess. So it's James Babb and Stephen and Derek J. and these guys are doing Somalia Fest. It's a pirate thing. So Saturday to Tuesday. So we're going to be there, and we're putting up a big, dome with the pirate face on it. PiratesWithoutBorders.com. So you go.
Before PorcFest starts, you're going to have your own PorcFest.
Hell yeah!
Your own pirate fest.
Yeah, man, it's
well,
I'm going to be partying.
I'm going to have to come up for that for sure.
We'll be right now. We got to go. I don't know if we can go. We may not be able to go. We're doing Jack Fest and rethinking everything for sure, but maybe on PorcFest. The small one.
I understand.
Yeah, Jack Fest is kind of. Have you been to Jack Fest yet, or Jackalope Freedom Festival, Tarrin?
No, it's too much of a haul for me. I'd have to. I don't fly anywhere, so that's a haul. I'd still go.
It's cool, man. You can come hang for an extra week. Yeah. Come on down. Davi's going to be here Friday. We got a bunch of work to do on, the Pirates Without Borders and get ready for different stuff. So he's going to be here Friday for a couple of weeks, and then go back to Atlanta, and then drive up with all his merch and everything for the Somalia Fest. And it's because when they're learning, why don't you just go be an anarchist, live in Somalia? Yes,
that's hilarious.
That's exactly what we're going to do.
That's so funny. So they're going to come up Sunday to before official. See, what happened is PorcFest basically wanted to save some money, and they cut the first 2 days out. So they went back to their traditional 5 day instead of 7. But nobody cares, and they're all still going 7. So they're just not going to have an official. So if you guys are going to be the first unofficial kickoff to PorcFest, that's awesome, because that would be a lot of fun.
We're just going to be there, party, and do what we want but that's why, you were saying, will Ian show up? Well, it's 4 days, before the freaking thing starts. Of course he can come if he wants to.
Awesome.
Yeah, you feel me?
That's a great idea.
So, I want to say that Jack Fest is like PorcFest was in 2009.
Is that crazy? It's like the Wild West.
There's just no rules, It's like,
I love it.
It's not a lot of rules, and there's not big.
When is the Jackalope Festival?
It's the first weekend in August, and it's going into the 6th year. And what happened is
the Jackalope is what state? Arizona?
It's Arizona. It's in northeastern Arizona. Well, it's 115 here. It's like 78 up there. you know, in the
Wonderful.
mountains. It's really nice. And what happens, you're out in the middle of Forest Service of no permit, nothing. And they go, yeah, but you know, almost like, whoa, we're having this and this. I go, you're too organized. And they go, oh, Facebook, you have over 70 people, which means that friended it or liked it or whatever. And that means that if you have over 70 people, you need a permit. And where's your porta johns you got to have and shiny badge. In the second year, helicopters and they're you know, SWAT teams with the guns and hut, and nobody's in charge. And they go to this 10 by 10 and has a camera looking at them. It says free hugs and they're top of the morning to you, sir. You know, they just like, never mind, you know? So after that, and we've been good and clean up and they just leave us alone. But the reason is because a bunch of military and civilian intelligence and so on, retired police officers moved up there to get away from the galloping zombie hordes, you know, should things go to crap. And here comes these freaking libertarian anarchist volunteerists taking over the forest for a week. And, you know, damn it, we should explain it to them. And then they just, you know, finally figured it out that we are just, it doesn't matter. And they just leave us alone now. But it's not organized. So what happened? Sean Dean, one of the activists, he's a Native American and he brings a rave. And Kat and John, weren't you right there? Oh, yeah, you came after you'd already started. Boom, 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 till 6 a.m. every day. Okay. So then it's like, you know, what kind of anarchist rules do you have here? We're going to call the ranger? You know, who's the sheriff? I mean, so all these things get discussed. So there's a big meeting on Saturday, and it was awesome. It gets taken care of.
Yeah, we handled business last year. If anyone was there, it's kind of hardcore.
Is that in August, guys?
First weekend in August.
Yeah,
It's
like I want to say like July 29th through August. Is that right? Through August 7th? It's like a week.
It's the first week. I just know the Saturday and Sunday of it is always the first weekend in August. And then a lot of people just come early, you know, and do kind of the Pork Fest thing.
And if anybody wants to see Derek Bros and the Decentralize Your Life tour, they're going to be early to Jack Fest, and so are we. They hit Sedona on July 14th, and then they're kind of circling around through the west and the central west area, and they're coming back down for Jack Fest, and they're going to be there the first 4 days of Jack Fest. So if anyone's looking to see Derek Bros, maybe get a copy of his third book, you got to come to the full Jack Fest. Just don't come to just.
Yeah, if I could get him up. I scheduled last 2 times scheduled on the show. He slept through it.
Derek did?
Yeah. You know, I'm just like, hey, somebody call and wake him up, okay? You know, so I'm going to lose you on my speed dial, Derek.
I'm his unofficial agent. I'll get on him for you.
For you,
good. See, that's a payment.
For you viewers who
don't
know what we're talking about, there's 2 large festivals. The Pork Fest is in the Northeast at the end of next month. And it's a freedom festival, which some of the ME group is meeting up there. So if you're anywhere in the Northeast or you just want to drive up next month, it's awesome. It's a party at a campground. It's a lot of fun. And then the Jackalope is in August if you live near Arizona. So if you want to go out that way, that's a fun festival too. And I'm sure we can
totally unorganized.
Yeah, we can get you to come on and talk about it when it gets closer.
Yeah, it will be fun. It's 6th year, man. I'm telling you, if it was going to happen, it's happened.
It's made the turn. It's lived that long, so that's awesome.
Yeah, because nobody's in charge.
It's in Arizona. Yeah,
northeastern Arizona. Hey, thanks for having me on, man. I got to go. It's 7 o'clock. Donna's waiting on me, but hey, it was great to see you again too, John, Kat, and the kids. That's awesome. And thank you, Tarrin. You know, it's always a great time to hang out with you, man.
How can I not have you on with these guys? I mean,
I know. Thank you very much. I was looking forward to it.
Like this once in a while. All right, thanks, guys. I got a little housekeeping before you go. Don't forget to support the show. Just click through the Amazon link below. Since YouTube sucks now at paying because of the YouTube boycott, it is what's keeping the show alive. So I'd appreciate if you're going to go shopping on Amazon to go through my link. It does make a big difference, and it helps the show survive since YouTube sucks now. And also, Kat and John, you guys want to plug where they can find you one more time? We've dropped it in the link a few times, but sorry, we dropped it in the chat a few times. But go ahead and tell people that are watching.
Thehomestead.guru is my blog. Please like us on Facebook. I'm trying to hit 10,000 likes by the end of the month.
What? Yeah, the homestead.guru is amazing blog. Kat's super passionate about it. It's really gaining a lot of traction. It's in the top 50,000 most popular websites in the country.
Wow. Well, I hope you'll post this video over there.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
and then check out Brave New Books at bravenewbooks.store, and you can buy our awesome products there. Bravekratom.com if you want to get some of the highest quality kratom out there. And then we invite you to join our self-improvement group on Facebook. Search Brave New You Self-Improvement Group. If you're struggling with anything, we'll be there to help you out as a community and help grow together.
we also have a YouTube channel, Bleish Family Videos, and I just kind of, I used to think I could do one video a week, but it averages to about 2 a month, little videos of what we're doing with our life.
How do I not know this? You guys are on YouTube and I don't know this. Bleish Family Video.
Bleish Family Videos, plural.
We gotta get on that. I didn't know you were on YouTube. I would have posted that for sure. Oh, there you are. Yeah, subscribe. All right, you got a subscriber. Boom.
All right.
So I appreciate that, guys, and I hope if you guys have the time, John and Kat, maybe you'll come into the group chat and say hi to some of these people that have questions. Just hang on here, and I'll show you how to get to it.
Cool.
Peace, guys. Thanks, Tarrin. Bye, John. Bye, Kat. Bye, kids.
Love you guys. Support each other. Love each other. Stay positive and be nice to your cat. We'll see you next show.
Bye.